since reconfiguring to carry my amplifier's current in the back and just sending enough power from the front to back to charge, I went to a ground on the body. And well, it's a ground that's connected to the body and the frame. So what I need to do up here is upgrade the grounds going to the body and frame so that we have plenty of power delivery from the ground case on the alternator to where I picked up the ground in the back at the batteries. Well, technically right now it's the capacitor, but there's going to be a big lithium battery back there. Right now, what's happening is the alternator case is grounding to this bracket, which is grounding to the engine, which is running through a ground strap because the engine is sitting on motor mounts, which have a rubber in them. Not going to be very good connection there, obviously. So there's a ground strap going from the engine to the body, and then there's ground straps going from the body to the frame. But that isn't going to cut it. We're going to need to try to get more of a ground connection between that alternator and the wire in the back, which is connected to the body and the frame. So we want to make sure we're getting a good solid connection from the alternator to essentially the body and the frame up here. That's what we're shooting for. Now back early on in the build on this Tahoe, I connected a ground from here to the body here. I since removed it. You can see this wire goes nowhere. It's just cut off. But I can reuse this body mount. This is actually a ground point for a ground going from the engine block to the body. So this is the ground essentially from the alternator to the body because the alternator is grounded to the engine block and then grounded to the body. Adding a second ground here would be a good choice for starters. So I'm going to go back and add that ground back in. Now on my setup, I have two grounds running from both alternators, running over here to this ground distribution point, and this ground right here runs to this battery. So I can add a ground point here, this 4th volt going to there, and that's going to be a really good starting point. Okay, while I do have some virgin wire that I could use and some connectors, I have some pieces of wire that I've used in different installs, and I'd rather use these guys up first because, for obvious reasons, we save the virgin stuff for more custom bits that we're going to need. So I'm going to look and see. This will definitely reach, be a little excessive. I don't really want to cut it off if I don't have to, because again, I'd be going back to the square one. This piece won't quite reach there. So I need one that's about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 inches longer than this. So I'm going to go in here and dig around and see what I can find. In the interest of being frugal, I could run a wire from here to this bolt here, which would actually give me one body ground, and then run a wire from there down to that bolt, which would be a better body ground, and that would give me a full ground all the way in. Since this is literally designed for a body ground, that'd be the ultimate place to connect to. But if I pull this off and clean it up real good, I should be able to should be able to connect to that like so, and then run from there to there. I had that one wire up there. I want to see if there's a shorter one or that'll run that distance. No, that one won't make it. That would be good, but it won't make it. So it looks like it's going to be this guy. I'm also figuring out how I'm going to have the wire, trying to lay the wire in there and make it look right. So I could run it at that angle so that it tucks this way. And then come up like that. That'd be pretty good. So let me get my tools out here and see what I can screw up. Y'all, Base Cat wanted me to tell you meow. He was very insistent upon that. He said it like 15 times. See if we can get these bolts off here. I'm missing one of my sockets. I blame the cats. Hopefully I got the one that I need. Probably missing that one. I don't know. Some of these aren't in the right spot. That's not the right size. It'll work. That's a 14. Is there a 13? That's a 14. I think that goes somewhere else. There's a 13. That'll work. I'll grab us a drive and a extension. Not super old school. Super old school would be like a screwdriver to scratch it up. But a piece of sandpaper will get the paint off there. I'm going to check these while I'm here. Get this bad boy out of here carefully. Wow. Huh. That ground right there is really carrying a lot, because when I unplugged it, my under the hood light went off. And all of a sudden that dropped to 5 volts. That's a busy little wire. It's also sparking. That's a busy little ground right there. It could use some help. Holy crap, man. Guys. That is a serious piece of ground right here. It could definitely use some help. It's like the only thing connecting to the engine to the... That's it. Wow. Alright. I'm not sure what I caught or didn't catch, but I'm going to tell you about it now. So, yeah, that was a big deal. So, when I disconnected this ground that runs up to the body right here, when I disconnected that ground, that light went off under the hood. My under the hood light, yeah, up there. So it went off, and the voltage dropped to 5 volts, which told me that this is the only ground connecting the electrical system to the body, which is where I'm picking up the ground for that light. And which is also where I'm picking up the signal, the ground for my voltmeter. So when I disconnected that ground strap, that one ground strap, it basically it shut everything down. That was this. So if I'm connecting to the body somewhere for a ground, this is the only ground running from the alternators, batteries, everything up here to the body of the vehicle. So no matter how much of a wire I put in the back, I'm pulling everything through that one ground strap. So adding this ground, this alt gauge running up here to the ground is a must, an absolute must. Now currently on this side, this is my ground, this alt gauge, and it's running down to the head of the engine. So it's a good solid ground connecting the battery to the alternator. But we're still trying to connect the alternator and this battery to the body. See, right now all that was happening through that ground strap. Now at least we've got one alt gauge going back there, but that ground strap was handling whatever this battery outputted, the alternator, the other battery, everything was going through that ground strap if that's the only ground you have coming from the front of the vehicle. If you're relying on a body ground in the back to provide power to your amplifiers, you're pulling, no matter how much power you've got, you're pulling it all through that one ground strap over there. That's it. So what I need to do is add, since I've got an engine connection, which is essentially basically the same as an alternator ground connection, coming up to this battery, if I connect this battery to the body, that will give me another access for ground to be able to run from the alternators through the batteries to the body to wherever it needs to go. So I'm thinking I want to add a second connection to the body from this point over here. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. All right, guys, for anybody that's using body grounds, here's my tip of the day. The header panel, this panel up here, the header, or the firewall, excuse me, the firewall is a double layered piece of metal connecting to the body. It's very stiff, very strong, and well attached, because this is what keeps things from going in the cab if you have a wreck. It also prevents any engine fires from getting inside for at least a length of time. So that's guaranteed to be a very structural, solid part of the vehicle. The fender, on the other hand, not so much. The metal's thinner, and its connection points can be rusty and corroded. But this part up here, if it's cleaned up, should make for a good connection. It's the same point where I'm connected on the other side, but it is directly part of everything. This is one piece of metal that goes from here to this firewall. So, very solid. So this is what I'm shooting for, but right now I don't have a bolt and nut situation to use there. I'm going to see if I can find one. And I think I'm going to go for that with this shorty cable here and just connect it straight like this. Nice short run, very heavy cable, should make for a solid connection. And in case you guys are wondering, I am going to be splitting up my electrical. So I'm going to remove these two wires right here, and this alternator is going to be handling nothing but the audio, and this alternator is going to be handling nothing but the rest of the vehicle. So 370 amps is underneath the constant inflow for the lithium that I'm going to put back there. So I want to do that. I don't want to have 670 amps getting slammed into a battery that is designed to handle 400 amps constant, right? So I'm relying on the battery's capacity to fill in the gaps when the music is low, to charge, and then music is high, to dump, as well as my capacitor back there. I'm not going to be relying on the alternator to hit those bass notes. So I'm just going to be feeding it 370 amps or less, depending on the situation, back to the lithium. And by isolating these two, if I've got everything right, we'll eliminate the possibility of putting a strain on this alternator, and also we're eliminating the 12.5 volt system up here from being connected to the lithium battery back there, which will rest at a little higher than that. And it'll start, you won't have to worry about waiting on it to get low and these batteries pulling the lithium down whenever it's sitting. None of that will be a problem. So I can leave the AGM in the system and remove it from the audio system. Make sense?
Yo, I'm riding down the street, got the bass on blast. Car audio enthusiasts and first never last. Subwoofer thumping, got the neighborhood jumping. In the world of sound, I'm always pumping. Car audio enthusiasts, that's my game. Heated frequencies, no two sound the same. From the highs to the lows, mid-range in between. My car sound system is a music machine.
Yeah, that works. Good deal. So now we'll have plenty of ground from front to back, and we won't have to worry about that ground strap doing all the crazy things it was having to do, and life will be good.